in football from youth to pros. I'm your co-host, Sean Crawford, alongside 14-year NFL vet, Ted Ginn Jr.
What's up, Sean? Thanks. Thanks for coming along on this journey. Welcome to the Ted Ginn Jr. show, In The Huddle. Our main focus is youth sports. Covering high school football, giving different outlets for youth, giving different outlets for our kids in our community, in our state. One of my biggest things is to, bring back Ohio State, my alma mater. I know you don't like that, but it's okay. After yesterday, not yesterday, Saturday, but let's blast this thing, man. Let's treat it like we know we supposed to. Let's give all the love that we can to all the kids, through the youth, through the high school. Shout out the college kids and the pros that come through from time to time. But our main focus is to give a platform for youth. And as much as we can do that, we going to rock it out.
Weekly, we'll be joined by Next Gen Ken, Next Gen Blood, and Willie. Coming up after the break, we'll have Coach Coach Tressel, and then followed by him, we'll have Coach Ted Ginn Sr. So we'll be right back. Welcome Coach Tressel to the podcast, In the Huddle with Teddy Ginn Jr. Coach Tressel, appreciate you coming on.
No, my pleasure, my honor. Anytime I'm with any one of the Ginns, I feel good.
Exactly. Coach, I first want to talk about, obviously, this past weekend, most recently, the Ohio State Notre Dame game. Off show, you two were talking about, the previous matchup when you were coaching against Notre Dame and Teddy going off for 200 plus. Kind of just talk about that game and what you saw from it, and maybe some memories that you remember when you were coaching against Notre Dame.
Well, that as Teddy and I were talking offline here, that was the game where A.J. Hawk, his girlfriend was Laura Quinn, and the opposite quarterback was Brady Quinn, and so we weren't going to let A.J. enter that marriage, being 0-1. So those guys were playing for AJ's future. And but anytime you get Ohio State and Notre Dame together, I mean, those are two first-class programs. It means a lot. The whole country's watching. The game this past Saturday night was a much different affair. The one we played back in the 2005 season, 2006 Fiesta Bowl was a 690-some-odd yards by the Buckeyes. It was a track meet with Teddy and Santonio and Gonzo and Pittman and Troy and all those guys. This one the other night was a real slugfest, and obviously it went right down to the wire.
Yeah. Coach, like you said earlier, we was trying to make AJ go in there 1-0, and that was his last game playing, and Santonio, that was wanted to be his last game playing, and. Yep. Everybody was kind of like handing over the stick to the next person, like you said, like a track meet, and
that's right.
We all went out there and just to be voted to play that week. Remember, we was voted to play against each other. We wasn't. It was like we had the best fans, so they voted for us to play against each other because they knew it was going to be a barn burner, and we luckily that we went out and we took care of business. So.
Well, I tell you what, it was two good teams and some great athletes on both teams, and it was a lot of fun. And if you remember, we lost Bobby Carpenter in the Michigan game at the end of the year. Remember, he broke his leg.
First play of the game.
And he was going to be going out, and Nick Mangold, who is what 7 or 8 time Pro Bowler for the Jets, and he was going to be finishing, and I think Robbie Sims, wasn't that Robbie's last game?
Oh yeah, Rob. You had Nate Sally. You had
Yep.
You had a lot of guys that meant a lot to that program at that time.
That's right.
That really was the stepping stone or the leaders that was part of that success, and to lead them guys and have them have you always play for your seniors. You always play for your fifth grade, your fifth year seniors, and different things like that, and to go out and really put it all together and show all different levels of competition as far as, sophomores, juniors, seniors, to have a team like that was amazing.
Well, and that's right. And the sophomores by the end of the year were really juniors. It came to football.
Yep.
The juniors were really seniors, and so you were hoping they were going to play their best, and that's, to me, as I think back to our games at the end of the year, whether it was our Ohio State Michigan games or our bowl games. To me, those were a lot of fun because you had spent so much time together. I don't know that people realize how much work that student athletes put into it, how much time those assistant coaches spend training and, studying the film and all those hours. And then you get down to the last week in November or the bowl game. That's a culmination of a lot of love, a lot of time together. And those are ones you always remember.
Yeah, you enjoy them a lot. lot.
Now, Coach, we're going to have some people that you know very well on the show later on, Ted Ginn Sr., and then also Troy Smith, players that you have coached, and then also a coach that you have a great relationship with as well. I want to talk about just the dynasty that you have helped build, over at Ohio State, and just the standard of excellence that you have helped build. And so when we get into, the conversations later with them, we're going to talk about excellence and the impact that you might have made on their lives and the impact that coaches make on their players' lives like you have made on Teddy's over here. So I just want to talk to you and ask you about just, how'd you go about building that Ohio State standard and seeing it to where it is now that you're, no longer there, but still having that standard still hold up and to be able to watch them, achieve college football playoffs, achieve national championships, and win big games. How do you feel like now watching that after you've been a part of that journey?
Well, it makes you feel awfully proud that, that you had a part in putting one of the bricks in the foundation. And I remember when we first went down to Columbus, and one of the first conversations I had was with Coach Ginn. And, he said, we got to get that family atmosphere back together. He said, we've got to make it such that every single person in Ohio wants to be a Buckeye and have that pipeline and have that ability to really grow close and have something special. And if you remember at the time, one of Teddy's closest buddies, Pierre, was up there at Michigan. And I know Michigan. And in fact, Teddy, I was just at the University of Tennessee yesterday, and they were telling me how that they were recruiting you like crazy. And they said, man, that was one that we would have died for. But what Coach Ginn did a great job helping me understand and helping our staff understand is you've got to do a good job taking care of the young people in Ohio so that it's no doubt about it that they want to be Buckeyes. And I don't know how many total tar blooders we had, Teddy. I don't know what the number was, but I know we had thousands of yards and hundreds of tackles and hundreds of receptions, and it was crazy. And it really began with conversations with Coach Ginn about how do we build that family.
For sure. So that kind of leads into my question, Coach. With me being on the youth platform and me dealing with the youth, what do youth football means to you as a college coach?
What you hope is that the youth programs are building a real good, strong foundation for what a young person understands about how hard it is to be great, just what it takes, how to become a good teammate, to understand that, you have to be good on the field and off the field. And when we get students at the college level, they're 18, 19 years old already. Their foundation is so established. And youth sports, I'm a believer that if we don't do a better job with youth sports, maybe than we've been doing in the last few decades, if we can make them about the whole person, about what it takes to be great, what it takes to be a good teammate, what it takes to be a good person, that's what we need from youth sports. And then their talents will take over. But you know how it is, Teddy. They got to have all the rest of the characteristics to really do great things.
For sure. And with with my platform, that's what I'm trying to do. And with this show, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get the word out that, youth is important, and youth is the next generation. And without youth, is none of us, and we have to put all our tools in there because, like I say, without youth sports, I would never be Teddy Ginn.
Well, there's no doubt. And think about it today compared to when you were 12 years old. The world has changed dramatically.
Big time.
And there's so many distractions, we always say, Coach Ginn and I always talk about there's a fierce battle for your mind. And these young people now, there is such a battle for their mind and their attention, and giving them that youth platform for them to understand that this is work. You have to do it the right way. You have to be the right kind of person. You have to quiet those distractions. You've got to push away those temptations. And youth sports has always been important, never more important than it is today.
Thank you.
Coach, what are some suggestions that you may have to help improve the youth sports as well? Because obviously coaching at Ohio State, you've kind of seen it from you've seen it from the entire state of Ohio. Also with your background, coaching at BW and being from the area, what have you seen that helps the youth and just communities in general grow and then later on impact a kid's life?
I think the key to anything is leadership, and I think the people you have working with the youth is so critical. And so training the coaches, making sure the coaches understand here are the things that we need to make sure they're non-negotiables. The way the young man carries himself, his attention to detail in the classroom, him being the right kind of person, his training habits, what it takes to be great. Everyone thinks they can wake up and be Teddy Ginn or Troy Smith or Pierre Woods or, Curtis Terry. Well, those guys worked. Those guys did the right things. Those guys did all the little things. And, these kids today grow up in the Sports Center highlight world where all they see is highlights. They didn't see all the work that was done. They didn't see the tough times Teddy Ginn had or the tough times Troy Smith had or Bryant Browning or any of those guys. So training the coaches to make sure that they're helping the young people understand just what it takes, just the type of path they have to take to be successful. The key, I think, is leadership and coaching in the youth areas.
No doubt. So like you said, you named all them guys from Glenville, and not just us, but you have the Gonzos, you have the Pittmans, you have the Maurice Clarettes, you have the different names that come from the surrounding areas of Ohio. You know what I'm saying? My next question is, what is so special about Ohio and recruiting Ohio?
I think it goes way back in history, Teddy. I think if you think about the way Ohio was started, it was started by people moving from the East, coming from all over the world, coming from the South, coming for these great jobs that they had in the Industrial Revolution. And then they became a part of a community, whether it's the Glenville community or the Berea community where I grew up, or the community in Solon, or wherever it happens to be. They became a part of a community. And then football became the rallying point of the community. It became the place that everyone looked to on Friday. The pride of the community was the high school football team. And I think that became such a big thing. And then all of a sudden, it turned out so many great players, so many great coaches, so many people that wanted to keep that tradition of Ohio football. But I really think it began with the pride in the community. I hear you guys talk all the time about the Glenville community and what it means, and that's who you're playing for, and that that's the way it is all over the state. You can go out to those little country towns on the western part of the state that are out by the farms. They're playing for their community, and I think that's what has made Ohio special in terms of it's the greatest team sport in the world. Football is. There's no doubt, because it takes so many people. It takes 11 on offense, 11 on defense, special teams, coaches, trainers, strength coaches, cheerleaders, band members, fans. It takes everybody, and it becomes a community thing. And Ohio developed that great pride in their communities, and it has carried on to this day.
Coach, to be a great coach and a successful coach, I feel like you got to build great relationships, and obviously you've built great relationships, and that's why we're here today. You talking to Teddy and still having relationships with your other former players. I saw you over summer at Braxton Miller's camp, and I want to touch on Deion Sanders a little bit and his relationship that he has to his players, and obviously the media attention that they're getting. But there's one point that I definitely want to touch on, and that's Chris Gamble. I want to touch on him because he was the original both offense and defensive player that you actually happen to coach. And so now Deion has, Travis Hunter doing the same thing. And so I want to touch on, obviously we could touch on the relationship that you have with the players and how you build them, but I want to touch on how do you go managing that player and making that decision when you already have a roster full of tremendous talent, but making that decision to have him go both ways and be and produce on offense and defense.
Well, the thing that you try to build is that understanding for all of our guys that they need to do whatever the team happens to need. And I just got a text from Chris Gamble today. Teddy, I just sent him back his goal sheets and all that.
Yeah.
And he sent me a text back, and he's like, man, I can't believe I read those things from 20 years ago and all that kind of thing. But we were in a situation where we had a couple corners that were injured. And Teddy will tell you when we were in individual period, we would have the wideouts cover the DBs and let the DBs run wide out. We'd have a lot of fun. And one thing we noticed with Chris Gamble was in man coverage, even though he was a wideout, he was the best coverage guy we had on the team. And so we had some injuries, and then we had to ask him if he could play both ways for a while. And we started by doing it in the red zone because we didn't want to overdo it because he was playing all that offense. Then we made it if they crossed the 50, well, then all of a sudden we were like 11-0, 12-0. We said, you know what? Chris is going to play full-time both ways. And I think in the national championship game, he played 128 plays. But our guys knew that whatever it was we needed, they had to provide it if they could. If you recall back to the Alamo Bowl, Teddy, you played quarterback.
For sure.
Right?
I didn't have no choice.
Had no choice. Zwick got it. Remember, he pulled his hamstring.
Throwing a hitch to me.
Yeah, throwing it right.
I don't know how that's possible.
And so we had to put Teddy in the shotgun.
Yep. and that goes back to me being a 7-ball, me looking up to a Chris Gamble, me coming in right after Chris Gamble with that same expectations of being a wideout and a corner, but being actually a corner that changed into a wideout. What made me be that type of guy, or what changed that style for me?
Well, it was interesting. Obviously, we just wanted Teddy Ginn Jr., the person, on our team when we were recruiting you. We wanted that kind of person. Yes, you had great speed, and yes, you could do amazing things with the ball and so forth. But we wanted the kind of guy who wanted to win every snap, who wanted to do whatever the team needed. And at the outset, if you recall, everyone was talking about Teddy as the next Deion, the next shutdown corner, which we said, okay, let's go. Well, then as preseason went on and we were looking at the strengths and weaknesses of our team, we thought, well, we know for sure he's going to run back punts and kickoffs, so that's going to make us better. But you know what? He might help us get better quicker if he plays offense. And I don't think it was, Teddy, until preseason was over that we made the switch, did we?
Yeah, you made the switch. 1 week before the opening game, you gave me 10 plays, and 3 of them was highlighted. And 1 of them was a slant, 1 was a goal, and 1 was a slip screen. And you told me, we're going to run these. So if you don't know all 10, know these 3. You know what I'm saying? And I really thought it was because of Matt Johnson running me over in that hoot and holler.
No. You know what? You're always looking to see where your guys can be most successful. But I'll say this because, Anthony Gonzalez did the same thing.
Yeah.
Anthony came in, and he was a DB, And that was fine because that's what he wanted to be. And then I'll never forget when Anthony came into my office. And Teddy, my office was right next to the locker room there.
Broke my
And he
baby
walked
toe
in the
on
door and he said, "Coach, I think I'm better suited as an offensive player." I said, "Okay, Gonzo, let's go." And he moved over to offense and the rest was history. But having guys with the willingness to do whatever the team needs, and that's what they need to find out in youth. Some youth kids, they might be linemen early in their career, but they want to be a running back.
Right.
Well, the team might need them to be a lineman for a minute.
Yeah.
And so teaching them that unselfishness, teaching them the work ethic, teaching them that what's most important in life is to do what everyone else needs. And my wife, Ellen, always reminds me of an old Zig Ziglar quote. It's, "You can get everything in life you want as soon as you help enough other people get what they want."
That's true statement.
And that's what we have to teach our youth in sports is it's not about them. It's about the team. And if you make it about the team, you know what? You'll end up getting what you want.
For sure. Well, thank you, Coach, man. I appreciate it.
Sure.
We enjoyed your time. It's always a great pleasure to have you anywhere,
Well,
but,
appreciate it.
continue to keep doing what you do. I love you. Thank you for the gold pants. Thank you for the
Thank you for the gold pants. I didn't run back any punts.
Yes, you did. But just to get that stuff like Chris said, man, just to see what our mindsets was 20 years ago.
Right.
Our goals, and to see me set goals that I accomplished as far as on the field and off the field. It just gave me the chills to be able to show my kids that I was thinking about y'all before y'all was even in the picture. I was already trying to make a way with my wife before I was already married. So man, I just commend you and congratulate you that you didn't have any kids. You know what I'm saying? And you took us on as everybody. I mean, I never forget the time that I walked by you in the locker room and you walked up and you said, "Did you call your grandmother?" And I said, "No." I said, "Why?" He said, "It's her birthday." You know what I'm saying? And for that, it gave me an opportunity to be one of the best grandsons at that time. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So the things that you do and the sparks that you have, keep creating them for us, please.
Well, and you guys do that with the youth, and our country will be just fine.
For sure.
And tell Coach Ginn I love him. I love you, and tell Troy to behave. Troy gave me this gray hair. I didn't have gray hair until I had Troy.
No doubt. So I'll pass that message on for you.
All right, my friend. Talk to you soon.
All right.
Yep.
Tell your wife
Bye-bye.
I said hello too.
All righty.
I've got my guy Willie here, going to highlight some of the youth in the city of Cleveland. Willie, take it over.
Okay, first off, let me break this down to you. My thing is you can't teach dog. We Northeast Ohio, we known for football, and it started with the youth. First off, let me tell you this. When I say you can't teach dog, I mean this. I can teach you a lot of things as a coach. I can teach you how to throw a ball. I can teach you how to tackle, but the dog got to be in you. You can't teach that. It's a thing that's in you at birth. Now, it may take a Ted Ginn or Sean Crawford to bring it out of you, but it already got to be there. So my top you can't teach dog kid of the week goes to Pierre Coleman from 6 Stars 13U running back. He's a dog. I've been watching him play since he was 7 years old. He played with my son. But one of the main reasons I want to make sure I spotlight him is because he had a game last week where I went to school with his sister, who was with his mom, and she was battling from lupus, and she passed away. But this was the actual game before she passed away. She passed away after this game. So for him to go out there, knowing his mom was sick, knowing she was going through, and just play his heart out, I had to make sure I spotlight him. So my question to you, Ted, you played in some big games. You've been playing since he, at his age, since 7. Have you ever had to, play, during the adverse moments? Because I could just imagine being 13, having to go out there with that on your heart and play. And I know some pros that couldn't do that. It's just a testament to his focus and his determination. He dedicated that game to her. So have you ever, had to play with something like that?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's adversity every time you step on the field, but to have adversity like that at a young age and being able to go out, the segment "You Can't Teach Dog" relates right to it. Just showing the character that this kid has and continues to have. To go out and be the MVP that day. You know, you could just show that he wanted to do it. He was doing it for a purpose. He just wanted to show his mom that no matter if you here or not, I'm still gonna take care of business, and that's all you really want as a kid, and that's all you want as a parent. You know what I'm saying? So this was a great moment to really be able to say you can't teach dog.
So facts. So Pierre, my dog, man, it didn't go unnoticed. I want to shout you out and remember, you can't teach dog. He gonna be in high school soon. So speaking of that, I want to kick it over to my dudes from Next Gen. Man, they got some updates for us, some top 10, some top 5 player highlights. So go ahead, y'all, take it off.
What's going on, y'all? So starting off, first of all, I want to shout out the new top 15 power rankings. We do this every week, starting since week 1. It's been changing. So the top 5 has been the same basically for about the past probably month now. Massillon, number 1. Hoban, number 2. Is number 3, Avon number 4, Glenville number 5. Massillon Massillon just did jump to number 1 a couple weeks ago after the big victory over St. Ed, so that was huge in the rankings. Moving on to 6 through 10, we got Riverside at 6, Cleveland Heights at 7. A lot of controversy. A lot of people think that Cleveland Heights should be top 5. We get a lot of slack about Cleveland Heights not being in
y'all
top
addressed
5.
it. Okay.
So,
some Glenville guys on there, some Ginn Elite guys on there.
it is. Shout out
Doing
Marquise
great.
Davis. Shout out Hen. They got some dogs over there for sure.
Can't
So,
teach dog,
Can't
baby.
teach. Hey, there you go.
Can't teach it.
Yeah.
For sure. So moving on to number 8, we got Walsh Jesuit. We got Ursuline at 9, sneaking in the Youngstown school here. That's actually kind of another controversial one because a lot of people think Ursuline should also probably be top 5. They undefeated on the season right now, putting up 50 points on the scoreboard, things along that nature. So that's another one right there. And then Medina at 10 coming into the season. Medina was actually one of my favorite teams. They run that 5 wide, pass the ball every single play. Shout out quarterback Danny Stoddard. Last year, he actually led the entire country in passing yards, and he started off this season as the number 1 player on our impact list.
Ohio State, check that out.
Ohio State, check them out.
5,000 last year. Just saying.
5,000.
5,000.
They
They literally go 5 wide, like
That's
no
crazy.
Yeah.
air it out.
You feel bad for the DBs out there, like, man, it's no stopping it.
It's a lot.
They getting a lot of film work though.
It's a lot of condition out there.
Yeah.
I know. Imagine being a corner and you just gotta go.
Oh, they would
against that.
have ran the ball against us when we was in high school.
You think so?
Yeah, not
The
they-
crazy
way.
thing is, a couple years ago when Drew Allard was at Medina and stuff, when they played against Eds in the playoffs, yeah, they beat Eds.
I wasn't there, so we ain't never lose to Medina. So.
For sure.
But nah, he nice too though. He doing his thing at Penn
He
State.
is at Penn State. Shout out Penn State for sure.
Penn State.
And then rounding it out, 11 through 15, we got Wadsworth, Avon Lake, Hudson, another Youngstown school in Austintown Fitch, and Menor, who surprisingly we started off the season with Menor in our top 5, and they didn't took some tough losses. They lost to Heights, they lost to St. Ignatius, so they done took a couple tough losses that got them down to 15. But I think come playoff time, they could probably get spooky a little bit and go on a little run.
Shout out Scotty Fox.
So let me ask y'all a question though, just for like the viewers at home. When y'all do y'all top 15, like is it like based off of strength of schedule or anything, like college or like okay? So I just wanted to like clarify that
It's
because
based off
I'm in the minority that
height
Height should probably be up there higher too. That's one reason I asked that. Man.
You said height should be up higher.
Yeah,
It's based off record. It's based off strength of schedule. I mean, if you go back and look at the top 5, it also go based off like if we think if you lined up against this team, what would be the outcome. So I mean,
So y'all got y'all own system.
candidly,
Okay,
candidly, Heights up against anybody in our top 5. Like at this current moment, we think anybody in the
got the
top
best
5
running
will
back,
win
though.
that game. So they do. I mean, shout out Marquise Davis for
George
sure.
Monroe,
They
George
definitely
Monroe product, baby.
They definitely
Mike,
George
we got
Monroe
one out
product
there.
for sure.
For
But,
sure you do.
Yeah.
What age group is this for Southside Spartans?
This 12U right
That's 12
here.
years. Yeah, they nice. We played them. They
Shout out,
nice.
shout out Darius Hiley.
They yeah.
Shout
They
out
get
Darius
busy.
Hiley, a Glenville guy. You know, we love it.
Look at number
Little
0.
Soup out
with the
there.
team.
Hey, Little Soup threw that.
Here we go. Look.
Little
This one
Soup.
crazy.
Yeah.
This crazy. Give me that.
Ah.
He
Give
took
me
it
that.
from
And he
him.
took it.
He took
gone.
it. There we go. Kinston and Sharton again right there. That was the game changer. Sharton had the lead most of the game. This was the play right here that changed it.
What was the score of that game?
31-21 was the final, Kinston.
Honorable mention.
Oh, yeah, this. Hey,
Okay.
it's not over yet.
Wait,
There's more. Give me that.
Fumble.
You can't teach dog.
What team was that?
Oh, man. Great way not to
Okay.
quit on the play. Great way not to quit on the play.
We like that. Them all dogs. Shout out to all them kids over there, man. High school, community league. Ohio, Cleveland, period, we get a rap because they feel like we don't have enough talent. I try to tell people all the time, it's not that we don't have talent. It's really the lack of opportunity. So that's what we just trying to do here is make sure we spotlight the kids, spotlight the high school kids, and if we can help them scout or somebody see them, yeah, so be it. That's our part right there.
Now we getting over to the player of the week. Take it off.
Okay, so for week 6, next gen player of the week, we have Avon, Eagles quarterback, Nolan Good. This guy put up some video game numbers this past weekend, as you could see. I mean, 5 rushing touchdowns, 1 passing touchdown, 100 yards on the ground, 130 in the air. Avon defeated Olmsted Falls a whole lot to a very little.
Shout out to Nolan, but I do that every night in Madden. So every night in Madden,
Hey.
I put up the numbers.
But that
It's
is mad
a
number.
little more impressive, right?
So I got a quick question for y'all. Y'all went to a high school football game this weekend. Y'all want to tell us about that, and also an upcoming high school football game this weekend that people might want to check out.
This past weekend game of the week was definitely Chardon versus Kinston.
Okay.
Like we just spoke about during the top plays. It was Chardon led majority of the game, first 3 quarters. Kinston comes out. They make that huge turnover that we saw on the top plays. That was really the turning point of the game. Kinston quarterback Lucas Kaltenbach made some very, very incredible throws late in that game because early first half, Kinston is more of a run the ball type of team. A couple weeks ago, that running back actually won Next Gen Player of the Week. He had 5 touchdowns on the ground, like we was just talking about. So, Chardon, they focus was to stop the run. So once Kinston opened up the deep shots a little bit, that's really what opened up the game for them. And then coming up this week, we have the Holy War, St. Edward versus St. Ignatius. That's on Saturday
Yes, sir.
Okay, I see you.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
At St. Ed's, Lakewood.
Might as well start a new Holy War in Akron too. Wash versus Hope, and that might as well be the new one because St. V they backed out of that. Then you got Lake Catholic versus Padua. Shout out to the Padua boys. And Lake Catholic been on the hot start too this year. They actually we had Kinston in our top 15 win like the last 2 weeks, and they had actually got took out because of Lake Catholic. They ended up beating them by like 20 something. So yeah, next week you got Heights versus Medina. That's gonna be big. Danny Stoddard, Marquise Davis sharing the field together. You got Glenville versus Hoban. That's gonna be a big one.
Yep.
And Akron.
Yeah, that's gonna be a real big
And
one.
I think it's one more. I don't know.
Kinston versus Riverside.
Oh, that's a big one. Maloney versus Luke Kaltenbach. That's gonna be a good one too.
So basically, what y'all saying, people ain't got no excuse, man. Get out here and support these high school football. There you go.
These last few weeks
Support, man.
gonna be crucial.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
a good matches going.
Coming up next, I had one pops. Now I got my real pops. Coming to the show, Ted Ginn Sr. What a pleasure. It's always an honor to have you in my presence. It's always an honor to have you anywhere when you're around. Welcome to the Ted Ginn in the Huddle, and let's have fun. It's my guy, Sean Crawford. And, we're going to get into a little bit of what it's all about. It's youth football, high school football, a little bit about the city, a little bit about the state, what you about, what you done created, what you done stepped on, a little bit about myself. So let's just enjoy this show.
Thanks for having me.
Now, Coach, you're definitely someone who's widely known across the area, widely known across the state, and then also the country for just the impact that you have made on, children from since I've been alive, since growing up in the Cleveland area, all I've known was, Ted Ginn, Glenville, and just not only that the players that you've, put into the pros, but just the impact that you have on many children's lives, from their time that they start playing football, maybe even before they start playing football, and all the way until, the end of their careers. And so, I personally want to just start off the conversation with, first of all, just saying congrats, and I'm honored to be in your presence as well. I got a question. Obviously with a lot of success, there comes, some hate as well. And I want to know, like, so far, like, how have you handled, the positive and the negative noise from the outside that you might receive, but also that, it could be seen as somewhat hate. But I want to know how have you handled that, so far in your journey, teaching these kids and impacting the youth, and especially the city of Cleveland?
Yeah, well, the way I handle it, you have to know your purpose in life. Your haters are your elevator. So it really, sometimes it get kind of, I get kind of mad about it because you don't want people to think ill of your children. But I handle it because I understand it's my assignment for God, and when you are doing the right things, you're going to get that. It's sad, but when I started the program, I already know that I was trying to win the kids against all odds, and God has blessed me to be able to stand in a position to help children and help people get in a position in life. And it's our duty is to serve kids and to serve people and to be a spiritual leader in the city. It's really not even about the sport. It's about just being that servant leader, and being obedient to what God's Son did and left a light inside of us to serve, So that's the gift that I go by.
How did you come upon that purpose? Because, I've only seen you as, a coach, as a leader, just someone who's, impactful in the community. But there had to be something that flipped the switch for you. There's something that had to be, there had to be something that was sparked for you. And it could have been as a youth. It could have been, later on in life. I want to know and touch on what was that for you, and what past experiences led you to become, who you are and start the path that you were on.
Well, I think it kind of started through tragedy. I think when you lose your mom at an early age, I lost my mom when I was 19, and then a coach came to me started me to coaching, and I was just being obedient to the coach, But I think the tragedy of my mother being by herself at 19 and not wanting to be hungry or homeless, and then when the coach made me come to Glenville in 1976, and I saw the impact that I had on young people, I think that's what sparked me. And when I saw that, and then I seen that I could change your mindset and to make sure that people didn't live like I had to live at an early age. And, and it exploded, it exploded to what it is today. I think that's one of the things that happened at an early age in my coaching career. I found out that I can help people and raise children to have opportunity in the world to be productive people. Football is just a vehicle, but the purpose is still the same. Is to help people and help children.
So that leads into my question, and like our show is based around youth. What do youth football mean to a high school coach like yourself? What does it mean to be around a program in your area?
Well, I think youth football is really important, especially when you're doing the things that we're trying to do in high school. I don't think youth football is good if you just out there coaching to win games. But if you're out there to teach young people and get them prepared to come into high school, it's the most important thing. I mean, because when you go back years ago, even when you was a child, it was the people like the Sim Raiders and places like that older people was teaching. They just wasn't teaching football. They was teaching young people to become productive people when they go to high school. And I think that's something that we have to spend more time in. We have to put more money into it. And then I think we should have more boxes checked for the people that's coaching the kids, because youth football, we can get into the wind so much and you'll destroy a kid at an early age if you don't do it right. I think that just today I had an interview today, and they asked me basically the same question. It's only so many opportunities that you get in life, and playing in Muni football is an opportunity if you teach him right. And you can destroy a kid in this sport if you don't have the right foundation and right purpose of why you do it.
Now, especially just in the community of Cleveland, especially the inner city, there's a lot of adversity. And you talk about there could be some bad leadership from a head, from the coach, or from in home, from parents, things like that. But also just the community in general. Kind of just touch on how much you have helped impact the city of Cleveland and then your community that has, ultimately led to the youth being able to benefit from that.
Well, we know about the kids that have left, the Glenville Ginn system. You got some that's millionaires, but we got a lot of kids that you don't know about that didn't even play sports. So it's the purpose have to continue to be the same in Cleveland. We sometimes the sport get in the way of the purpose. If you don't have a purpose, you don't have a plan. Winning football games and having championships and you haven't won a kid's soul is no good. And the earliest we can get this done on the lower level, the easier it be for them when they get on the high school level. But the whole key is to impact the kids in the city of Cleveland. The key is to make Cleveland like it used to be before some of you all was born. You didn't go nowhere in this town if you didn't come through the city. In every sport, even I talked about this today, academic challenge. That was a thing that came on Saturdays where the Glenville was known for that. We're on there trying to win. We're against all the private schools and different things like that. So we're looking for that, for our city to get back to where it used to be. And, through sports and education, I might not live to see it, but that's the plan.
Well, with us having Tressel on a little earlier, and he stated that, being friends with you and being able to come back into the community and some of the things that you instilled in him as family-based and being surrounded by good people and having the right people around the right people to be able to take care of the kids. What do you give a high school player that's going to the next level? Like, what do you tell him to help him with his chapter?
Well, first thing that you got to, and this is just the way it is, you got to give them the proper understanding about what they're getting ready to go to the next level. A lot of times, coaches and kids and parents and people get it mixed up. Football is just a vehicle to give them the right understanding. So if the kid don't have the right understanding, and we're struggling with that today because of social media and the cell phone and the games and all this kind of stuff, that these kids are living in a false world. We got to get back to hard work and dedication and understand now it's really a business. These kids are getting paid. They doing all these different things to pay children. But you got to put some in. And a lot of times, they're getting it mixed up because they like the game, they play the game, but don't love it. And that's because it's coming so easy with all these different little fatty stuff that's coming around. And I fight with that right now. Children, it's like nobody's going to come in this on a white horse and rescue you if you don't dedicate yourself to it, to the business, and that's based on a lot of things: respect, order, your appearance, and you're a businessman, and that's where, we having a struggle today because back when you was in school, things that I see today, you couldn't do that with me years ago, but now you got to find a scheme to make them love it. Y'all love football. These kids don't love it like that. They love to play it, but they don't want to sacrifice what it takes to be that businessman that they can be.
So this goes to my next question. With you being my dad and us going through the journey that we went through, and I'm just going to take you out of the coaching realm of it, as a father, having the number one kid in the city, in the state, and in the country, how hard or how easy was that for you to navigate, especially in this time and day, having the number one kid like that with the NIL deals and the under the table type things? I know for a fact we haven't took anything, but with the new age of deals, like, how do you stop that? How do you be able to tell somebody, that you had this already, that this is not good or that is not good? Like, how do you express that, not being a coach but being a father?
Well, first thing, how I was with that. Anytime that somebody would come around with you, I was always right there. Because we don't want to mess up the whole deal with that. But today's time, when you went through it, it wasn't hard. It was just hard. It only was hard because people didn't understand it. But it wasn't really hard. It was hard on you because you had to sacrifice. You had to dedicate yourself. You had to eat the right things. You had to go to bed at a certain time. You had to separate yourself from your friends, you understand, to get where you was at. But it was good for you, and I've always said that I appreciate you for being the example of hope for other people. You understand? So that's what I'm most proud of when it comes down to you. But today's kids don't want to put that type of work in, but they want that same success, and that's where we having a struggle. And then with the world giving them certain things that they didn't give to you when you was there, you had to really earn it. It's pretty tough because you'll never ever get that dedication that you really need because of the way the world is. And now with they giving a 16, 17-year-old kid money, that's pretty tough. I think it should be put into a escrow somewhere where they can get it once they mature a little bit. It's being very hard to coach kids with, and not taking away from the social media, but social media, the kids is not mature enough mentally to handle the stuff that they are getting. When you was the number one track runner, number one football player in the world in high school, you earned that, but it didn't you didn't ever think of it that way. You thought of it of a way that you're the example of hope for somebody that's coming behind you. You know, it's just God just bless you like that. So right now it's pretty hard because the kids are not mature enough to handle a lot of stuff and don't want to dedicate themselves to it.
Coach, you talk about Teddy being an influence, and I second that just because I've only owned one Ohio State jersey in my life. I'm not an Ohio State fan, and it was an Ohio State number 7. And obviously didn't have a number on the back, but it was at the time, or it didn't have a name on the back, but it was at the time that you were there. And just, you know, being a kid from Cleveland and playing in the Muni League and things like that, you were definitely an influence for me, and I'm sure other athletes, other children growing up. I want to touch on, you talk about the work and the commitment that he had. I want to ask you, where did that come from? Like, who was the example for you? Because, you know, I know you talked about just in conversation with me before how you would come back, kids would see you working. You know, the Shanes, the Justins, like they would see you working, and then they would be inspired by that. But I want to know, like, obviously you had the talent, and your dad was a coach, but there still had to be commitment from you in order to get to where you wanted to get to. And it's like a lot of people, you know, other people can't want it for you. They can put you in a position. They could drive you to practice. They could pick you up from practice, give you meals, things like that. But they can't want it for you. And so I wanted to ask you, like, what made it click for you to be so committed, so driven, on top of the talent that you had?
I just think, you know, I was born into Glenville. Like, I wasn't like placed. I was born into Glenville. I can still remember things at 4 years old that was happening around Glenville. You know, I still know what everything went on in Glenville, from the change to where I got there to the change that it is now to the change before I got there. Like, but I just seen so much dedication in the previous athletes. You know what I'm saying? I had the 90 era. I had the end of the 85 of the 80s era. You know what I'm saying? I had the whole 90s. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I just wanted to be better than everybody. That was just my number one goal, that I'm going to have an opportunity to play for my old man, and I can really sit here and he's running the same stuff year in and year out, that he ain't going to switch it up when I get there. You know what I'm saying? I just wanted to be the best guy to ever come through his doors because he had the opportunity for me. And, you know, that was the only person that was going to make the opportunity. And in the mix of that, I was able to bring a lot of guys on because I have brothers and sisters, but not around my age at that time. So it was like an empty nest. So everybody that came in had the same mindset that I had, was to be great. You get what I'm saying? So I just became a leader so fast and so young. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I just remember, you know, me and Ken Albert just laughed the other day about it. I really had a uniform. I wore 44.
Yep.
Don't nobody wear that. Wasn't nobody taking that from me. Like, that was me, and I'm going to do the water. I'm going to do whatever it take with Ace that's still there to this day. Like, you get what I'm saying? Still doing the water. You know what I'm saying? So it was just like everything that was embedded or everything that was lined up was still lined up when I got there for me to have no worries. So the only worry I had was not succeeding. You know what I'm saying? I struggled in school, so he had figured out a way for me to be able to play for him, because at one point in time, I wasn't going to be able to play for my father. That's what people don't know. When I was in 8th grade, I wasn't going to be eligible to play for him till we, you know, figured it out. You know what I'm saying? And that would change my whole model. You know what I'm saying? I got an opportunity to play for my father, for Glenville. That's why I got the tattoo. You know what I'm saying? My first tattoo, and he told me, if you're going to get a tattoo, make sure it means something. So I got God, Glenville, Ginn. And them always been my stepping stones. Them always been who I've been, you know what I'm saying? So every time I walk in, it was always, God got me here. I got to put on for Glenville, but I still got to be a Ginn too. You get what I'm saying? So that always just been my motto.
Coach, hearing Teddy talk about that, I want to know how does that make you feel? Just being able to put him, in position, but also maybe unknowingly helped him get to where he is today.
Yeah. I mean, that is a big subject. I know, we talked about him struggling in school. We talked about how school treated him from 5th grade, All of it is a package. When you think about it, Ted wasn't the greatest football player as a freshman, but he had the desire to do that. So we had to go to work and we had to put things in place. When he can run a 5.1 40 and Nick Saban pat him on his head and said, what a nice little boy. I told Ted we was at LSU. He was a freshman. Run 5.1 40. I said, never let nobody pat you on your head like that. That's a good way to tell you ain't S. You know what I'm saying? So we took that I took it as a father personally to make him take it personally. You understand? We got to get on in the books, and we got to be a great athlete because you want to be. He had the desire. You understand? But when somebody can run a 5.1 40 and end up running 4.28 coming out of high school, you had to dedicate yourself. You had to put some work in, and we made that happen as a family, as a father to a son, and we spent the time. But that's a lot of dedication from him as well. But you're not, and I don't know if people really understand that, but people that really know, when you take a kid from a freshman that wasn't the best student, wasn't the best athlete, wasn't the best track runner, you understand? And then he become number one, and then he graduated in the top 10 of his class, and he become the number one high school football player in the country, the number one track person in the country. A lot of those guys you see in the Olympics running hurdles, we ran them off the track because we followed them. But it says a lot for him to be able to do that and to be able to be a great student and a great athlete and be the example for everybody else. That's a lot of dedication. You know what I'm saying? So I've always been proud of him for that. And, we made it happen. But without that system that we have in place, the Ginn system, it's so many. And I always felt that if I could do this with my kid, I could do it with a whole lot of kids if they just listen. And they probably got more talent than Ted had at 13 and 14 years old. So I just don't I can see every kid in the city of Cleveland being superstars, being great men, with education and sports. So
that is a closing question for the both of you. Now you see it passing off the knowledge and, passing off the experience to Teddy. And Ted, you obviously learning from your dad. Now you back in the community, giving back, youth organization, foundation, doing things within the city. You got Ginn Elite, things like that. What's the plan moving forward for Glenville, for Ginn Elite, and just, the both of you coming together, pushing the community forward?
Well, my whole plan of Ginn Elite is to be the feeder system, just like any other situation that's going on here around our city. I just wanted to be the feeder system. I wanted our community to have the same joy that I had, for us to be able to have that feel. And I just got there. For a couple years, they wouldn't let me in the field for whatever reason, But I got into the field, and to see how that field rock from 4:30 to 8 o'clock with all type of youth kids, you know what I'm saying? It takes me back to, like he said earlier, my Sim Raiders days. It takes me back to when I was the water boy and watching the JVs play, watching the Vars play, and different things like hitting Big Bertha. Like, you know what I'm saying? Watching Glenville play baseball. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, just trying to bring all that stuff back to that field, because that's our hub. And as long as we got that, I think we can always bring the gold, the diamonds out the rough. We can always bring the Marshall Lattimers, the Frank Clarks, the Troy Smiths, the Teddy Ginns, you know what I'm saying? And with my program being able to see some of my guys that sophomores playing, starting on varsity right now, you get what I'm saying? My plan of what I wanted to do is working. So it's just like now I just got to sit back and just try to work as many people into the plan to make it bigger. You get what I'm saying? Because to see the CJs, the Vellies, the Aarons, you know what I'm saying? 71 on the line. You know what I'm saying? All these kids go to college too. They just not starting at safety or corner. They go to college. They at Tri-C, they at CSU. Like, they just not at Ginn Academy all day. They in college too. So my plan of what I've been telling these kids since they were 7 and 8 years old, it's working. You get what I'm saying? I got one of the top 14U teams in the country. I'm just following the footsteps of what I know and what I was taught and what I was brought under. You get what I'm saying? So I just want to keep continuing to build, and as long as I build, that help him stay where he need to be.
There it is, Coach.
Go ahead.
What I was just gonna see if you wanted to follow up, but
Yes.
obviously, you hearing him talk about getting a lead and probably funneling some kids to you, other schools around the city. What's the plan for you going forward? Because you got the accolades, you just won the state championship, you send guys to the pros, guys go to college. You've done a lot, and you talk about there still need to be more that needs to be done. So for you, what's the plan for you going forward?
Well, the plan for me is to continue to be obedient to the mission of helping children. Ginn Elite is doing a great job. They are preparing the kids properly. So my thing is now trying to finish my legacy. Meaning that I have to make sure that someone else is coming along that can keep this going, because it's a lifesaver. People look at it like it's a sport, but it's not. I have to make sure that we continue to do the assignment, and Ginn Elite has done a great job. All those kids he was talking about, all those kids are sophomores. They starting on varsity. They going to Tri-C, taking up college credits so that they can get their associate when they graduate. So it isn't just not football. It's just not the sport. It's the whole wraparound services for the children. But it's always a struggle in the city, and it's been a struggle because of the success of other kids like Ted and Troy and Marshawn and all that. People fight people just being spiritual leaders in the city of Cleveland. And I got Ted here now. I'm 67 years old. They 30-something years old. And they're responsible for this city. They're responsible for raising children. And I want them to know that. And that's what they're doing. And then along the way, it's always going to be issues. It's always going to be people that's going to hate. But you are so important to the world today, more so even back when Ted was coming along, because of the way the world is. The mindset of young people is not the same. So they have to continue to have the endurance to help these children get the proper understanding and have the proper way of being productive people in the world and coming into high school and taking advantage of education and sports and trying to get our city back the way it used to be. We're developing kids, and it's just a shame that we're here developing kids in our community so that we can make sure that they be successful. But somewhere along the line, they always want to bother the inner city kids. And I have a problem with that. educational wise, sports wise. They want us to develop the kids, and you take them to win a game. That's not it, And I have an issue with that. Period, because the way we living today. In 2007, I was trying to prevent what we're living today, and my whole life and my whole work and my whole purpose is based on sports and education. So, I look at Ted and them, and they're doing a great job, but it's their responsibility to make sure that they do right by the children. So that's it.
Well, thank you, Pops.
Yeah.
Man, we enjoyed you. Ted Ginn in the Huddle with Sean Crawford, and we out.